So, you finally convinced your crush to give you one last chance after forgetting your anniversary. You stayed up all night crafting the perfect apology. You hit send, nothing. You try again, still nothing. You restart your phone, nothing. Now you're staring at your screen wondering if she's ignoring you or if the universe has simply decided your love life has suffered enough. You tell yourself to stay calm. Maybe she's asleep. Then your friend calls. Well, tries to call. Another friend texts you from Wi-Fi asking, "Is your phone dead too?" That's when you realize it isn't just your relationship hanging by a thread. An entire mobile network has gone silent. For thousands of T-Mobile customers on July 27th, that wasn't a fictional nightmare. Phones suddenly slipped into SOS mode. Messages stopped moving, calls refused to connect, and social media quickly filled with confused users all asking the same question. What on earth is going on? But while everyone else was focused on getting their signal back, another question was quietly becoming far more interesting. Of course, this is not the first time. And even after restoration the same day, the telecom company still experienced further downtimes on July 31st. At this point, you might be thinking about calling customer support and asking to make up some stories and get $20 off your next bill. That's fair. But have you wondered if that would be all the company losing? Every single minute a telecom giant fails to keep its network running, how much money is quietly slipping through its fingers? The answer is far bigger than you might think. And once you see how the numbers work, you'll never look at a network outage or any large business the same way again. If your apology message never made it through, congratulations. Your relationship probably wasn't the problem. Your mobile network was. On July 27th, T-Mobile customers across the United States suddenly found themselves staring at the two most terrifying letters a smartphone can display: SOS. By late afternoon, more than 62,000 outage reports had flooded Down Detector as customers complained they couldn't make calls, send texts, or use mobile data. The disruption stretched across multiple states, and while T-Mobile confirmed it had restored service later that day, it did not publicly reveal what caused the outage. Just when customers thought they could finally stop refreshing their phones every 5 seconds, reports of fresh service issues surfaced again on July 31st. At that point, many users were beginning to wonder whether their signal was in a complicated relationship. It's back. Never mind. It's gone again. And T-Mobile isn't alone. In August 2025, Verizon experienced a nationwide outage that also left thousands of customers stuck in SOS mode. Social media quickly filled with memes, frustration, and the timeless customer service question, "Am I getting a refund?" It turns out that when a telecom network goes down, it doesn't just interrupt phone calls. It interrupts businesses, deliveries, appointments, emergency communications, and yes, the occasional last chance to save a relationship. But what actually makes a billion-dollar telecom network suddenly decide to ghost millions of people? The short answer is that there isn't just one reason. Sometimes it's a software update that goes horribly wrong. Think of it as sending one innocent text that somehow turns into a 3-hour argument. Other times it's a hardware failure. Servers break. Routers stop talking to each other. Fiber optic cables get damaged by construction crews who somehow manage to dig up the one cable everyone needed. Then there are power failures, cyber attacks, human error, or simply a tiny bug buried inside millions of lines of code. One small mistake can spread through a network faster than a rumor in a group chat. That explains the dreaded SOS message. Your phone isn't completely dead. It's basically saying, "I can see the world, I just can't reach my partner." Ironically, that's exactly what happened to some relationships during the outage. The good news is that most outages don't last forever. The bad news? Every single minute they're doing that, the money meter is still running. It's easy to think T-Mobile makes money the same way your neighborhood barber does. You pay for a service, you get the service, everyone goes home happy. If only it were that simple. Your monthly phone bill is just the front door to a much larger business. Behind the scenes, telecom companies are running one of the most expensive machines on the planet. Thousands of cell towers, underground fiber cables, satellites, massive data centers, retail stores, customer support teams, software engineers, and an army of technicians all work together so you can send your friend a blurry meme at 2 in the morning. Most of T-Mobile's revenue comes from monthly wireless plans paid by millions of customers. But that's only the beginning. The company also earns billions from business clients, home internet subscriptions, device financing, accessories, roaming fees, insurance plans, and wholesale agreements with smaller carriers that rent space on its network. Think of it like an all-you-can-eat buffet. You walked in for the fried rice, but somehow left with dessert, a drink, and an extra plate you definitely didn't need. Telecom companies love that. The challenge is that customers aren't really paying for phone calls anymore. They're paying for something much more valuable. Reliability. Nobody wakes up thinking, I hope my network works today. They simply expect it to. In fact, the best telecom network is almost invisible. You only remember it exists when it stops working, which brings us to an uncomfortable reality. If reliability is the product, then every minute of downtime isn't just a technical problem. It's a business problem with a price tag. Now for the million-dollar question. Well, maybe the multi-million-dollar question. How much money does T-Mobile actually make every hour? To answer that, we first need to clear up one common misunderstanding. Revenue and profit are not the same thing. Revenue is all the money a company brings in before paying its bills. Profit is what's left after paying for everything from employees' salaries and electricity to maintaining thousands of cell towers across the country. According to T-Mobile's latest annual financial results, the company generated roughly $83 billion in revenue over the course of the year. Divide that by 365 days, and you're looking at about $227 million every single day. Break it down further, and that's approximately $9.5 million every hour, $158,000 every minute, or more than $2,600 every second. Take a second to let that sink in. Before you finish tying your shoelaces, T-Mobile has generated enough revenue to buy a brand new family SUV. By the time you've watched this entire 15-minute video, the company would have generated well over $2 million in average revenue. Now, does that mean T-Mobile lost exactly $9.5 million for every hour its network experienced problems? Not necessarily. Even during an outage, many customers continue paying their monthly bills, some parts of the network remain operational, and not every service is affected equally. That's why it's impossible to calculate the exact financial loss from the outside. What these figures do tell us is something just as important. Every hour the company spends dealing with a widespread disruption is an hour when millions of dollars worth of business depends on getting the network back to normal as quickly as possible. Every additional minute raises the risk of customer refunds, overtime for technical teams, increased support costs, damaged reputation, and in some cases, customers deciding they've had enough. Think back to our poor guy from the beginning of the video. He was worried about losing one relationship because his apology never arrived. T-Mobile, on the other hand, has millions of relationships to protect. And unlike your crush, unhappy customers don't always give you a second chance. Remember our friend from the beginning of the video? At this point, he's probably accepted that the relationship is over. T-Mobile doesn't have that luxury. When a major outage happens, the money doesn't stop disappearing the moment the signal comes back. In many ways, that's when the expensive part begins. First comes the customer support avalanche. Thousands of people suddenly call, email, or flood social media looking for answers. That means longer support hours, extra staffing, and higher operating costs before a single customer has even been compensated. Then come the credits and refunds. While companies aren't legally required to refund every outage, many choose to offer account credits or other goodwill gestures to keep frustrated customers from switching to a competitor. Sometimes saving a customer is cheaper than finding a new one. Next comes the legal headache. Large outages have, at times, triggered class action lawsuits from customers and businesses claiming financial losses caused by disrupted service. Even if those cases are eventually dismissed or settled, defending them costs both time and money. Regulators can also enter the picture. The FCC has previously investigated major communications outages, particularly when emergency services such as 911 are affected, or when providers fail to meet reporting requirements. Those investigations can lead to consent decrees, compliance obligations, or financial penalties, depending on the circumstances. And then there are the lessons companies learn the hard way. In 2024, T-Mobile agreed to pay $31.5 million to settle an FCC investigation related to several data security breaches. While that case had nothing to do with network outages, it serves as a reminder that in the telecom business, reliability isn't just about keeping the signal alive. Companies are expected to protect both your connection and your information. The biggest loss, however, rarely appears on a fine or settlement agreement. It's trust. A customer who loses signal once might forgive you. A customer who loses signal twice starts comparing competitors. A customer who loses confidence may never come back. History shows this clearly. After the 2022 Rogers Communications outage in Canada, which disrupted service for over 12 million customers, the company faced widespread backlash, compensation payouts, and increased scrutiny as some users began switching providers in the months that followed. In 2020, T-Mobile experienced a nationwide voice and data outage that lasted several hours, prompting public apologies and customer credits as competitors saw spikes in ported numbers. Even in 2024, when AT&T suffered a major service disruption affecting emergency calls and millions of users, regulators opened inquiries while the company worked to reassure customers that reliability was improving. Once trust breaks, customers don't just remember the outage, they remember who felt unreliable when it mattered most. And unlike a dropped phone call, trust isn't something you can simply reconnect with the press of a button. At first glance, the T-Mobile outage looks like a technology problem. Engineers fix it, customers complain, the company apologizes, life goes on. But if that's all you see, you're missing the real story. This wasn't just about a phone network going down. It was a reminder of one of the oldest rules in business. People don't pay you because you're amazing. They pay you because you're reliable. Think about it. Imagine you have two restaurants. The first serves the greatest burger you've ever tasted, but every third visit they're closed without warning. The second serves a burger that's only slightly less impressive, but they're open every single day, right on time. Eventually, most people will stop chasing perfection and start choosing consistency. Businesses thrive on consistency. That's why Amazon invests billions in logistics instead of simply building a prettier website. It's why banks spend fortunes on cybersecurity that customers hope they'll never notice. It's why airlines perform thousands of maintenance checks before every flight, even though passengers would rather those costs didn't exist. The biggest investments are often made to prevent problems that customers never see. Telecom companies operate the same way. Every dollar spent upgrading towers, replacing aging equipment, strengthening cybersecurity, or adding backup systems isn't an expense for today's customers. It's insurance for tomorrow's reputation. This idea applies just as much to your own life. Most people are obsessed with making more money. Far fewer people are obsessed with becoming more dependable. If you're a freelancer, clients don't usually hire you again because your first project was spectacular. They hire you because you answered emails, met deadlines, communicated clearly, and delivered exactly what you promised. If you own a business, customers remember the experience more than the product. They remember whether you solved their problem, whether you showed up when you said you would, and whether they could trust you enough to recommend you to someone else. Trust is one of the few assets that compounds. Every positive experience adds another brick. Every broken promise removes one. That's why the smartest businesses aren't constantly asking, how do we make more money? They're asking, how do we become so reliable that customers don't even think about leaving? There's another lesson hiding here, and it's one that investors understand very well. The companies that quietly spend billions preventing disasters often look less exciting than the companies chasing rapid growth. Preventive maintenance, redundant infrastructure, employee training, and cybersecurity upgrades rarely make headlines because nothing dramatic happens. Ironically, that's exactly the point. Success is often invisible. When a bridge doesn't collapse, nobody celebrates the engineers. When the lights stay on, nobody applauds the electricians. When your phone works every morning for 5 years straight, you don't wake up feeling grateful to your mobile carrier. You simply expect it. The same principle applies to your career and your finances. The habits that create wealth are usually boring. Saving consistently isn't exciting. Investing patiently isn't exciting. Learning new skills every week isn't exciting. Showing up on time isn't exciting. But those ordinary habits create extraordinary results because they compound over time. Meanwhile, one careless decision can undo years of progress. One missed deadline, one dishonest sale, one security breach, one major outage. That's why successful people and successful companies think differently about money. They don't see maintenance as a cost. They see it as an investment. Because replacing a broken reputation is almost always more expensive than protecting it in the first place. So the next time you hear about a company spending billions on infrastructure, cybersecurity, or systems that nobody notices, remember this. The most valuable part of a business isn't always the product. Sometimes it's the customer's confidence that the product will still be there tomorrow. And confidence, once earned, becomes one of the most profitable assets any company or individual can ever own. So at the end of the day, a telecom outage is a little like a bad relationship text. One minute everything looks fine, the next minute your signal is gone, your message is stuck, and you are left asking, "Hello? Did I do something wrong?" The difference is, T-Mobile cannot just send a cute apology emoji and move on. When millions of people lose service, the costs pile up fast, the trust gets shaky, and the bill starts looking very ugly. But the bigger lesson is this. In business, money is not only made by selling. Money is also protected by staying reliable. And in life, the same thing is true. Be the person who shows up, stays prepared, and keeps the connection alive. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next video. And drop a comment below telling me, would you forgive the network or break up for good?